Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Alex Dvorkin and I'm a managing partner at 40 Capital. We specialize in one-of-a-kind mathematical approach to the stock market, where we analyze the market and individual stocks in multidimensional space. And when we do, essentially perfect order emerges. We also add a number of timing parameters that we've developed over the years on top of that. And we can typically predict exactly what any given individual equity or the overall market will do on multiple time frames. So whether we're talking about long-term or short-term doesn't really matter. I personally believe our work is nearly identical to what Jim Simmons was able to accomplish at Renaissance Technologies. So our primary function as a firm is to generate excessive returns by trying to identify the next NVIDIA, Apple, Bitcoin, Tesla, Microsoft, and then so on and so forth. And we typically do that by having the ability with our very powerful software to analyze the entire S&P 500 with our multidimensional calculations, and then identify equities that are about to bottom and then run up substantially, 2x, 5x, 10x. And if you've been following our videos, that's exactly what we concentrate on. So today's update is going to be on Walmart. Walmart is one of the 52 mega cap stocks that we follow. And we do those updates twice a year, and today is Walmart's lucky day, I guess. And Walmart finds itself, so let me minimize this, and this is basically the breakdown of Walmart. For those who are not familiar with our analytical approach, what you see here on the bottom of the chart and the top of the chart, what we would call cycle composites. And it's a very simplistic visual representation of a very complex mathematical concept that we apply to the stock market. So it's somewhat similar, if you're familiar with Hurst cycles, it's somewhat similar in that structure, but once again, we use bottom composites for identifying major bottoms or minor bottoms, depending on the time frame we're looking at, of any individual equity or the overall stock market. And we use top composites for identifying the tops. Now, what makes matter even more complicated, there are typically one or more composites, both up and down, running in any given market at any given time. So for example, I use Dow Jones. There are two composites. There are two upper composites and two down composites running at the same time. But if we put them together, we get a very close representation of what we see on the two-dimensional time and price chart. The lines you see are what we call cycle clusters. And we also have the ability to scan the market back, of course, and identify our proprietary cycles. And then we have the ability to project them into the future, okay? But here's where it gets very interesting. What we found over the years is that typically important turning points within the stock market happen not when any given individual cycle arrives, but it happens when a multitude of cycles arrive. So if we have 2, 3, 4, 5 cycles arriving on any given specific date, you can rest assured, particularly if those cycles are very powerful cycles, you can rest assured that we're going to have a very, very important turning point there, whether it's a top or a bottom, doesn't really matter. So basically the composites here, they get us into the neighborhood of where an important time turning point will happen. And cycle clusters give us the exact date. So for example, if we click on the bottom here, which is, or I'm sorry, if we click on the top here, because we're moving into the top on Walmart, we get a date of September 14th of 2025. So that's a neighborhood, let's say plus or minus 30 days, 30 trading days, I should say. But if we look at this particular line, which identifies October 15th, it has 4 cycles arriving around that particular date. So they're lining up, and the likelihood of a top there is very significant. So now with that time frame set, let's or that frame set, let's talk about exactly what Walmart is going to do according to our calculations. Now, if you remember our forecast, probably didn't follow us back then, but we made very few videos. But if you remember our forecast from December of 2024 for Walmart, the last forecast that we did, we talked about a top occurring around $100 a share, and after that there's going to be likely a pullback, and then subsequently the final top is going to be approximately around August or September of 2025. So this particular forecast, as you can see from the chart, worked out perfectly, and Walmart essentially finds itself at the top once again. So we just did the recalculations, and I forgot if I did the three-dimensional calculations on this chart, and I didn't do it, but nevertheless, point being is that Walmart is moving into this top. Let's say September and October of this year, it's going to be a very important top. Now this top doesn't necessarily have to go much higher or above the top that we had in, I believe it was in January or February of the year. And once this top is put in place, it's going to fall into this major cycle low, which is scheduled for December of 2026. Okay? And then subsequently it's going to run up in a fast move kind of fashion, if you're familiar with our videos, in a fast move kind of fashion from this very important major cycle bottom that is scheduled for December of 2026 into this top that is scheduled for later in 2027. So that's the overall structural move of that is expected for Walmart. So the question becomes, well, where is the top and where is the bottom? So let me just minimize this very quickly. And this is a representation of our three-dimensional calculations. One of the ways that we look at it, it's more so for internal use as opposed to well, our software for internal use. So it's very difficult to create a consumer product out of it that's going to identify exact turning points. But this is what we're looking at. So we're looking at the double bottom formation, or I'm sorry, double top formation here into this September and October time turning point. And even if the market, or even if Walmart pushes a little bit higher, it's not going to go much higher because, as you can see, the upper bound of what's possible here is $112 a share at the most. Possibly, if we're really pushing it, it's going to go into this final band, which is very unlikely. We rarely see that happen, but even if it does, it is only at $115 a share. So we are basically topping here. Once that top is put in place, we're going to decline quite significantly, and our calculations indicate that Walmart's going to decline by approximately 50% into that 2026 bottom that I just discussed. Now, obviously, I'm being a little bit more or not as exact as I could be, let's put it that way, and of course that is by design. We do have a 30-day free trial associated with our service where you can log in or request the free trial. There's no credit cards, no strings attached, none of that, and you can definitely see the more exact targets in both price and time that are associated with Walmart in this particular situation. But it is a very interesting stock, and the primary reason for that is because we are anticipating quite a significant moves in Walmart between this upcoming top that is scheduled to arrive very soon, and then subsequently this bottom where Walmart's going to decrease by in excess of 50%, and then subsequently an important major bottom here, and then quite a significant run up into this particular point. So a lot of volatility is coming for the stock. And once again, if you would like to know the exact dates, the exact prices, even trading parameters for this particular equity, then I do encourage you to request a free trial, and you can see all of the information there. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and we have a webinar coming up on Friday. Last one was very successful, and this one only limited to 10 people. We still have a few spots left, so if you do want to check it out, I highly encourage you to do so. We typically talk about our mathematical approach. We show our calculations, we show how we time the market, and how you can benefit from that as well. But the most important thing that we talk about in our webinar is the overall composition of the stock market. We typically shy away from talking about the overall stock market because that's our bread and butter, but during the webinar we typically give the breakdown, or we take a look at the breakdown of current composition of the stock market. We tell you where the market is, what's going to happen going forward in both price and time, and of course you can benefit from that quite substantially as well. And finally, there's a link in the description of this video that takes you to a little bit more detailed explanation of our work, proof, composition of our mathematical calculations, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day ahead, and we'll be back with another update of whether a fast mover or something else, perhaps a targeting analysis tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.